Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Blue Maxima, and I said back when it first came out that I wasn't going to do a video on Warzone because honestly I didn't think it was going to be any good. For multiple different reasons, pretty much all of which were just immediately disproven. Like 2 weeks after it was out, they were all so thoroughly disproven that I was actually kind of impressed with it. But for those of you who've been living under the absolute biggest rock in all of existence, so something like Everest, for example, Call of Duty Warzone is a free-to-play spin-off, quote-unquote. It's not really. It's like basically you download the Modern Warfare client, but you only get access to the Battle Royale stuff. And you can pay like 60 or 70 bucks or whatever it costs in your local region. And you can play the full Modern Warfare. So it's basically running off Modern Warfare's engine. It works with Modern Warfare's multiplayer. If you own multiplayer, it was basically just a patch for Modern Warfare. Which is all good. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's a Battle Royale game, which is something that's kind of been taking over the entirety of the games industry for a while, with tons of ones that have failed miserably, tons of ones that are just barely scraping by. And, of course, you've got your big ones. You've got your Fortnites, your Apexes, and your PUBGs. Although, PUBG has definitely been taking a downwards turn lately. Like, the only, not even positive thing, but the only thing that I've heard about PUBG recently is that they've started adding bots to public matches, and the bots are absolutely dreadful. So, that's really not a good thing to be working on. But anyway, Call of Duty Warzone, while it is Battle Royale, it inherits a lot of Call of Duty Modern Warfare's advantages. Mainly the gunplay, because the gunplay in that game was so absurdly good for a Call of Duty game that it was unreal. It was legitimately top of the line, but it doesn't inherit as many of the disadvantages either. Like, for example, multiplayer having absolutely terrible map design. Like, I actually played in one of the multiplayer free weekends because they actually offered it for free along with Warzone, which was actually a really nice benefit. And one of the things I like about Warzone is that they just give you a free weekend on some multiplayer maps every now and again. And some of they were basically all newer maps. They didn't give you any of the older stuff, which was absolutely terrible. And it was actually fine, mainly because half of them were bloody remakes. But nevertheless, we are talking about Warzone here. And it actually works off all the same loadout systems and leveling up and XP and stuff that Modern Warfare does as well, including its Battle Pass system, which I'm not actually inherently against, especially since there's no sort of massive advantages you can get via buying the Battle Pass. It's all cosmetics and XP boosts, which I actually appreciate a lot more than you might think, because this is Activision we're talking about. You know that they would push this shit as far as humanly possible were they given the opportunity, and they didn't. And it's actually weird because I played Call of Duty Mobile for a while, and it was exactly the same thing there. It was nothing but cosmetics and like some really minor advantages that would almost be absolutely no use in most competitive senses anyway. So, yeah, no, like they could have pushed it further than that, and they didn't. I'm still not entirely sure why. It doesn't make any sense, but yeah. The monetization in this game, absolutely fair. You don't have to buy anything except like little bundles of cosmetics they give you in the store, which sometimes give you missions that give you bonus XP and skins. That's literally the entirety of the monetization. And it works great. Like, I got nothing wrong with the way they're doing things here. And it's been a couple of months at this point since Warzone has launched, so I get the feeling that if they were going to do anything, they would have done it by now, but considering that they've got like 50 million players, which is absolutely ridiculous at this point, like I'm not even kidding, that is 50 million with like 7 O's on the end. That is unbelievable. And of course, it all supports crossplay, so you can play with people on controllers and people on mouse and keyboard, and you won't even notice. And the funny thing is, I actually played Modern Warfare back on PS4 with a mouse and keyboard, so it's not like locked to anything. As far as I can tell, turning off crossplay locks you to your platform and not your input, but I could be lying about that. I haven't actually tried turning it off, if I'm being perfectly honest, recently anyway, because, well, I haven't felt the need to. I see myself having perfectly fair gunfights with people. In fact, I actually started playing this with like a group of regular Joes here in Australia, and one of them's on controller, one of them's on PC, mouse and keyboard. And that's certainly something else. Like, I'm just trying to appreciate it for what it is, because a lot of people have tried to implement crossplay. It's gone back as far as the Xbox 360 with that game. I can't remember what it was called, Shadowgate or something like that. But this game, Modern Warfare's Warzone, has done it so well that I haven't even noticed that I'm not playing against keyboard or controller players. I think there was this one instance where I was going up against this guy straight after a drop, and he was just running around like he was literally blind, meleeing the air. And I thought to myself, yeah, that's a mouse and keyboard dude. That's definitely not a mouse and keyboard dude. That's a controller dude who's just picked up the game for the first time. I feel sorry for that guy. But anyway, as I said, the gunplay is absolutely fantastic. But another thing that I've really come to love about Modern Warfare, and by extension Warzone, is its sound design, because I recently just got a really good pair of headphones. We're talking like, we're talking ATH M50Xs. I love Audio-Technica. I've been on several pairs of headphones since I lost my last Audio-Technica pair, and I saw them on sale, and they have like Bluetooth support, so I can hook them up to my phone, or I can use them wirelessly on my computer if I can't be bothered to have the cord plugged in. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, it's time to go back. And when you're wearing a good pair of headphones like those and you're playing a game like Warzone, every individual little thing stands out. Every little crunch of your feet, every little sound effect that the world makes. So idling engines, fires flickering away in like wrecked cars, people making footsteps. It's all so well done, and you can tell exactly where everyone and everything is. I was listening very intently, and having headphones like this saves your ass multiple times, because you know exactly where the enemy is coming from, and you can be prepared to ambush them. It works amazingly well. Hearing all the gunfire and the airstrikes going off in the background, the bloody... I'm positive it's like an A10 chain gun or something that goes brrr when a bloody airstrike goes over. It just sounds wonderful, and they've done an absolutely fantastic job with the distance sounds and all that, making you feel just that little bit nervous about gunfire going off in the distance. With that said, though, the sound is often so good that I find myself looking behind myself just on reflex when I hear something coming, but still, the game is just really well done. Not to mention its presentation too. Like, I'm playing this on PC, and I've got this locked at 60 frames a second, right? In this video footage. But I normally play blah, 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 blah. I normally have the game running at 120 frames with really high settings. We're talking, like, there isn't anything I've turned down except, like, depth of field and motion blur. And it can pretty realistically hold 120. Sometimes it gets to like 90 in like really big scenes, but man, I don't know what they did to this game after the initial launch, but it runs so well. I mean, like, I know I'm basically saying that game with really big budget run real well because they actually have money to optimize it, but still, considering that even the last Call of Duty, like, well, not even, was it the last Call of Duty? I'd be lying if I said I bloody remember, but Black Ops 4, even that had trouble holding a solid 120 on my machine. So to have something that looks this good run at a solid 120 on this machine is just something else entirely. It plays so smooth. But anyway, I should probably talk about the benefits that it brings to Battle Royale, because there's a reason why I'm still playing it. And if it was a Call of Duty game, I usually would have fallen off it by now, but I picked it back up again, and I don't see myself stopping playing it in the near future, because, man, it's just good for a game where I can realistically relax, while at the same time getting that little bit of, what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit of, just enjoyment out of it, a little bit of tension, a little bit of strategy, a little bit of everything, because it does a lot of things right in terms of updating the Battle Royale formula to keep the pace up while not losing it, while not losing the essence of what Battle Royale is supposed to be. A 1 or 3 or 4 versus many duel to the death over short distance, long distance, or what have you. So, what are the ways that it manages to do this? Well, the first one is actually really major, and I really appreciate it for what it is, and that is the Gulag, which is where you get sent if you die the first time, assuming that you haven't run out the clock on the Gulag, because it does close eventually. You do have to run out the clock a fair bit in order to not respawn in the Gulag. But the Gulag, you get dropped in once you die the first time, and if you manage to successfully win a gunfight against someone else, which is just 1 versus 1, you get random equipment that's available a couple of seconds after the game starts, and you get 1 gun. And if you manage to win, you get to redeploy. You get to just drop back into the battlefield. They'll put you inside the circle, and you can just go straight back in and start looting again. And there's a couple of reasons why this works. One is that the gunfights are usually really short. We're talking there are a few seconds, easily. At most, you'll be in there for about 45 seconds before the overtime runs out. And the fast pace just matches up with everything that Call of Duty is meant to do. It's meant to give you that second chance really quickly, while also letting you jump straight back out in order to hop back in. We're talking solos at the moment. I'll talk about team play shortly. But yes, that's the one thing. It's quick. And if you are waiting there for about a minute and a half without anyone dying, they'll drop you back in anyway, which is also a really nice touch. Because, well, even with like 150 people to start with in this Battle Royale map, yeah, those people can drip in pretty slowly. So, yeah, that's nice. The second is that it actually makes the second life a hell of a lot more challenging. Now, if it was the same as, like, say, your first run, where you drop in, you immediately find supplies, and you just go, then it would be a little bit like, what's the word I'm looking for? It'd be a little bit de-emphasized, because it'd be like, oh, okay, I'm basically back up to where I was again. But in this game, where there's 150 people scouring the map, the chances of you actually dropping into somewhere that hasn't been looted half the shit already means that you'll basically be scavenging. You really need to earn that second life, and by earn that second life, I mean you basically need to track down someone who's probably much better geared than you and wipe the floor with them. Excuse me, my throat's cracking a bit there. So that generally means that, again, it keeps the pace up, because despite the fact that what some of this footage might be showing you, I'm just a bit paranoid at this point, because I'm pretty sure at this point in the footage I've actually heard somebody. I'm not going to spoil how this ends, by the way, because this is like one of the most tense matches of Warzone I've ever had. But, yes. I was, God, I just completely lost my train of thought there. You have to earn that second life, basically. You have to go and get someone, which increases the pace. And camping is actually pretty de-emphasized. It's not outright disencouraged, but it's de-emphasized, because there are a bunch of things that will require you to be really in a camp-ready situation. So you need to have, like, all your perks from your custom loadout. You need to have, like, good weaponry. You need to have enough armor plates to make sure that if you end up in an engagement, you'll be ready to actually deal with them once you are in that engagement. And how do you get those supplies? By running around, by looking for things, and by doing contracts. Now, contracts, while they aren't exactly the most major thing that Call of Duty has done to engage Battle Royale, it is probably what takes the cake. It is probably what ties all of this together. You see, Call of Duty and most of its FPS brethren, which are like it, are based around one thing, and that's aggression. In the main multiplayer modes, the main thing that'll get you anywhere is aggression. In the campaign, aggression is the one thing that gets you past, like, the campaign triggers that'll stop the enemies from spawning. Aggression, aggression, aggression. It's always what this series has been about. So how do you take a format like Battle Royale and encourage people to not camp, which is something that is very heavily encouraged by games like Fortnite, where you can literally get shot and turn into a house, or PUBG, where getting shot will probably down you? Well, along with the fact that you give people a second life so that it's not as dangerous to go running around, you've always got a second chance. You've also got these contracts, which are interesting because they're all required to go somewhere and therefore have to deal with something, most likely, right? So with your scavenger contract, where you have to find 3 loot boxes, there you have to go to those 3 points, therefore you have to expose yourself to 3 different locations. With the recon, you have to go to one place and stay there, and it fires off a beacon into the sky, which means anyone who's paying attention can come and hunt you down if they feel like it. And with bounty, you have to hunt down someone specifically, so you actively have to put yourself in the line of fire. And if you do this, you earn yourself money. And what do you do with that money? You can buy supplies that will get you further into the game. You can anything from extra ammo and extra armor, all the way down to UAVs, kill streaks, which will let you flush out individual peeps, and you can even get a loadout drop, which is really interesting. Actually, I didn't think they'd find a way to successfully convert this into a battle royale, but they did, where you can customize any particular set of weapons, perks, and you can customize any set of weapons, perks, and equipment that you want, same as you can in the multiplayer, and get it dropped in for playing Warzone. And some perks have different effects in Warzone. So you know what? That's great. Like, I legitimately have nothing against it, because, well, there's a couple of reasons for this. One is that it's actually surprisingly easy to get the 10 grand you need. A couple of bounties, a couple of just extra contracts off to the side will get you 10 grand, at which point you can call down your loadout drop. But the second reason, and this is the most interesting reason, is that unlike PUBG, where the drops are random, unlike Fortnite, where I believe the drops are random, I don't play much Fortnite for multiple reasons, but unlike those games for multiple reasons, in this game, loadout drops are timed for everyone. So everyone gets at least 1 loadout drop throughout the game, and if you last long enough, it'll be 2. But I've never gone for the second loadout drop, because you can actually see everyone else's loadout drop from the sky at the same time if you're really paying attention. And I actually did that in this footage early on, because I was like, oh shit, someone else's bounty drop just dropped. There's someone else near here. And I stopped, I looked around, and that gave me the drop on the guy that I needed to kill him. So, again, it introduces risk-reward while also adapting Call of Duty systems, while also introducing aggression, because you've got to move to get to your loadout drop. It'll always be dropped somewhere like 150, 200 meters away from you, but other people can also see it if they're really paying attention, so you can move into someone else's loadout drop and see if they will move in on it. It encourages aggression. Contracts encourage aggression. Loadout drops encourage aggression. The fact that you need money and loot encourages aggression. So it's everything encourages you to stay on the move. Everything encourages you to get into fights, to get more resources, to get more abilities, to get more things that'll help you survive until the end. So someone who is just camping, someone who's just held up in a house and doing nothing, won't stand anywhere near as much of a chance as someone who will... They don't stand anywhere near as much of a chance as someone who goes around doing contracts, getting cash, and putting in the effort to make sure they're supplied for the fight ahead. And that's what makes Call of Duty stand out. While you've got games like PUBG, which when you've got like 2 weapons that are relatively decent, you can just camp outside of the circle. When you've got games like Fortnite, where you can literally build your own cover. Compare that to Call of Duty Warzone, which is consistently encouraging you to go out of your way to get rewards, to constantly be on the move, and not just by like the circle. And the circle is actually one of the more mundane parts of this game, if I'm being perfectly honest. But just by consistently encouraging you to be on the move, to not camp, to go and get some extra rewards so that you stand more of a chance, it becomes the premier battle royale game by constantly giving you something to go for, while also having to worry about all of the other people off to the side. And it's helped out by the fact that as you're playing, you level up, you unlock things on the battle pass. So you get consumables, you get cosmetics, you get all of that stuff. And you also get, to level up, you also get your loadouts. So if you find guns in particular that you like, you can set up your custom loadout. You can start leveling them up in the fights. And there's even an extra mode or two to encourage you to play, to encourage you to do things like level up your weaponry. Just to use the one example that they have in this game. I imagine that they'll introduce more modes as the game goes on, but the mode that they introduce in this one is Blood Money, where you've got all your teams wandering around the map as usual, but you can respawn. You start with your loadouts, and you just go around and you kill other people. You take their money and you dump it at hold points. I've never particularly liked this, mainly because you can't play it solo, because I like playing solo when I just need to relax, but I do have a group I play with from time to time. But it's there. If you've got like two friends and you want to just like level up weapons or just play something a little different to the traditional Battle Royale, you can do that. You can absolutely do that. And it's all great. Like, I've legitimately been playing this for hours at this point, right? And I've been like looking over all of this game design because I'm the sort of person who likes Call of Duty Advanced Warfare more than everyone else. That game is absolutely fantastic, by the way. If I'm ever like completely out of videos to do, I'll probably do a video on that. Not even kidding, because honestly, it was one of the best Call of Duties that had ever come out after Call of Duty 4 and before, well, this one's Warzone mainly. But yeah, I've been playing this for hours. I've been obsessing over the mechanics. I've been looking at this and I've been thinking to myself, like, what does this do that makes it so good? What does this do that beats out all of the other Battle Royales that I've played? And it's just another example of why Gunfight is such a unique idea for a mode. It plays on Call of Duty's strengths while minimizing its weaknesses. So it turns Call of Duty into less of a camping game, because again, if you camp in this game, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. It makes it so that not only does it have multiple opportunities for you to succeed, but you can get right back in as quickly as you can. And with that 50 million people playing across 3 different consoles, which will probably become 5 when the PS5 and the Xbox Series X comes out, just the overall like player base of Warzone is ridiculous, and I've never had to wait much longer than a couple of minutes for a match. The focus on aggression via things like contracts, timed loadout drops, and just the general fact that you're going to need all of this stuff to succeed means that it maintains a good pace. That means that the game just doesn't feel like a camp fest most of the time. And the fact that it pulls over all of the really strong bits from the original Modern Warfare release, the graphical design, the sound design, the gunplay, and the performance of the PC version, means that it's just going from strength to strength to strength to strength. I guess the only real downsides I'd have to say about it is that Blood Money and Plunder aren't particularly interesting modes compared to what Battle Royale does to really shake things up. And just, I mean, what else is there? The game is like 200 gig for a full install. I admit that can be a bit of a bitch, but if you're a PC gamer like I am, if you actively focus on your PC gaming, you probably have at least a 200 terabyte hard drive in there somewhere. So, I love Warzone because it does everything right. I'm legitimately impressed. It does everything that it needs to. Someone's really taken the time to think this through, and it's practically free. Like, there are microtransactions, don't get me wrong, but it's just cosmetics and XP boosts. And considering how often that they give you like double XP weekends where you can just get from rank 1 to rank 55 without even breaking a sweat, it means that you'll have everything that you really need to get access to like right off the bat. So yeah, I love Warzone. Like, I really liked PUBG for multiple reasons, but Warzone just kicks the crap out of it at every conceivable opportunity. It's fast-paced without being ridiculous. It disincentivizes camping without like being too on the nose about it. It brings over all the good stuff from Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and it's free. So yeah, highly, fully recommended, like without question. Yep, I came second in that game. Man, I'm a little bit disappointed because if I kept my FPS on 120, I might have just been able to smooth out my aim enough. I'm not used to playing at 60 anymore. I play at 120 all the time. But yeah, Warzone is fantastic, and I absolutely recommend it to anyone who wants a Battle Royale experience. This has been Blue Maxima, and I'll see you all next time.